with me again today on Dr. Teach Me to Parent. Glad that you're able to take an hour and kind of tune in with us today because we have a very special program, very different program for you today. And we're going to be interviewing some very special people because they have some very special children. And we have Kevin and Sarah Lockwood with us this morning, and they have 6 children. The interesting point of it is that all the children have special needs, all have been adopted, all come from different countries. So it's kind of an international family, I guess, is really how you introduce yourself. So we're going to be talking to Sarah and Kevin here in just a moment. But before we do, let me put it in perspective so that we have a little thought about what we're going to do today. It's on the screen there in front of you. Teenagers are people who demand to be different. We all know that. We all know that kids want to be different. Yet they dress exactly alike. That's the contradiction of kids. And that's the problem of parents, is how to deal with kids who live a contradictory life. How they live a life that is says one thing but means something different. But and that's what parents have to do. They have to adopt to that. And you guys have had to do this with your kids. And are any of them teenagers, or are they all below teenagers?
We have 2 teenagers.
You have 2 teenagers out of the 6.
Yeah.
Okay. So Kevin and Sarah have now adopted 6 international kids.
That's right.
And all have special needs. How in the world did you get started in this?
Yeah.
I mean, 6 kids over 10 years, I guess you've adopted. So how did you get started? What was the trigger that said, maybe we should do that?
Yeah. That's a good question. So we had been looking at starting our family, and we worked and tried to, follow the normal routine of getting pregnant, and how that works. It just, for us, didn't work. And we spent a while reflecting on it and praying, and decided at the end that we didn't really want to spend any money.
So you have all these options now that you have to now consider.
There are, and everybody else.
And adoption was an option.
Yeah, it was a better option in our mind than fertility treatments or tests. So we just kind of put it in God's hands in faith and said, we don't know why, but we're going to pursue something else.
But you pursued disabled children, in that case, a child.
Yeah.
And so that's different.
Yeah.
Or was that just an accident that it came out that way? Or did you actually plan to have a special need child?
We actually went into our first couple adoptions really just wanting a child.
I see.
It didn't
Sure.
matter.
Okay.
We just wanted
Sure.
children.
Sure. So you're using the adoption process.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. And I grew up in a family of adoption. I have a brother and a sister that are adopted, and an aunt and uncle that are adopted.
So you're very familiar.
So we had talked about it prior to
Comfortable with that. Yeah.
having or not having our own biological children.
Yeah.
And so it just, when pregnancy didn't happen easily like we thought it would, it wasn't a plan B, it was just, okay, I guess we're doing this first instead of later in the process.
Yeah. So when you did that, then all of a sudden you have to face this decision. Are we going to go with a special needs child, or are we going to bypass that and stay with a kind of a normalized child, if you will?
Yeah. Well, I think we went into it initially hesitant, and our first 2 actually didn't have any diagnoses or major health issues, but we continually tried to be more open to whatever God would bring our way. And so as we're filling out paperwork and going through interviews with the agencies, God, I think, worked on our heart to say, well, there's other kids out there that need homes just as much. And so being with our first adoption, when we were in country, we started hearing more about these orphanages where the children that had needs were housed. And it really set on our hearts heavily.
Yeah. But you not only adopted 6 with special needs, but you adopt them from different countries. How did that happen?
It was all God, 100%. I grew up with an international adoption family, so we were looking towards international from the get-go.
We knew there was a big need. There was a lot of kids that had.
So what countries did you adopt from then?
Our oldest is from Kazakhstan. Our second is from Vietnam, and then the 4 littles, as we call them, are from China.
I see. So we have 3 different countries.
3 different countries.
3 different countries.
Yes.
And was it easy, or was it very difficult
Yes.
I mean, on each country.
Yes. The answer is
Sounds like it was
yes.
very difficult.
No, but I mean, it's
Time consuming.
time consuming.
A lot of paperwork.
It is very organized, very, you do step A, you do step B, but by the time you get to the country
Yeah,
and actually have the child in your arms, it's an easy process.
I see.
It's
The
time
bond-
But you have to
Yeah.
go, and you have to stay for a while. I mean, you have to live there for a while.
Depending on the country and the requirements, yeah,
They're different.
China's been the shortest, but we've been up to 2 months at a time in country. So
I see. So you actually go there and live,
Yeah.
and
It's
then, but
amazing.
you spend your time dealing with this adoption issue.
getting to know the culture, getting to know the child,
Going through different processes in country, interviews and
legal stuff.
the legal stuff of
Medical
adoption
checks.
in country.
So, do they want to adopt their special needs children out, or do they want to keep them in the country?
It depends.
Is there an attitude?
Yeah, it depends on the country.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
in some countries there is that feeling of we need to, disguise this problem. And I
Sure.
say problem because they're not committing the resources to give the kids the medical help they need. They're pretty much putting them in one orphanage in a city and saying, we'll just let them stay here. And
They're just
not
maintained.
think about it.
Yeah.
Right. But
Yeah.
in other countries like China, they work really hard to actually seek some of that outside help from other
Oh.
countries.
Oh.
And through the adoption process, these children are able to get the medical help they need in other countries. So,
Yeah. So when these kids had special needs, and you knew that before you adopted them, did you then line up medical care in that country, back home here,
Yeah,
so
back
that it
home.
was ready for you when you brought the kids home? Medical care was
That's right.
available.
As much as we could.
Mhm.
We lined them up with our pediatrician and got, started with our pediatrician first and ran tests and stuff like that. And then,
the referral process out to all the experts.
Sure.
We do a lot through Shriners Hospital, which does an amazing job, especially with treating children from international settings.
Do they? Tell
Yeah.
us about
Yeah,
that. I was
so-
wondering about how the medical community
Yeah.
is open
Yeah.
and willing to
Yeah.
work with you and a special needs child from a different country. I
Yeah, we've actually had no resistance. I
Is
think
that right?
some
No.
people are afraid of, there's the impact of how is our taxpayer dollars funding things.
Sure.
I'm self-employed, so our health insurance is self-purchased, and we kind of take that as a heavy burden. We go into it knowing that we're providing the care for them. However, through organizations like Shriners, they actually provide free care, and often for children from other
Oh, yes.
countries. So
Oh, yes.
that's where we've had a lot of benefits.
But when you adopted kids from 3 different countries and you knew they were special needs, did those countries, though, contribute to the care? Did they give you money to say, go home and get medical care for them, and these
No.
are some funds to use? I mean, did they?
No, on
Or
the other
just
hand,
nothing?
you actually, pay a lot of adoption fees.
More,
And,
maybe,
on the higher side, we've had adoptions that cost upwards of $40,000. On the lower side, maybe about $18,000. But a lot of those fees are going to ensure that the process is legitimate, that
Yes,
there's not
yes,
fraud happening. And
yes,
so
yes.
we get a lot of kickback. People say, oh, they should be paying you. No, we value how much they're working to make
I
sure.
was wondering what the attitude on that was from the countries themselves. We may think, they should, but
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's,
but they don't assume any responsibility for that.
No.
You adopt what you adopt, and you care.
Yeah.
So then you really need to have a medical system in place here back home, so that you're ready to go when that child comes.
And you have to be willing to hear diagnoses, because that's hard for parents sometimes to actually have a doctor tell them this is what's wrong, and they want to believe in power of positive thinking. Well, if we don't actually accept that, then they'll be fine. But
Yeah.
being ready to hear.
just being home will
give them
solve
love.
all the problems.
Oh, yes.
And that's not the case.
not the case at all, is it? No.
And really, what
Yeah.
was given to us in the files from the kids, not by fault of the country, but it's not really very accurate.
It's not a detailed workup. It's just an initial
It's
finding.
a
Yeah.
okay. We think this might be going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of research.
You
and-
said something about the some of the kids have physical disabilities, so their disability is obvious. Some of these kids have more learning disabilities, so
Yeah.
it's not as obvious.
Correct.
Right.
Maybe attention deficit disorder, maybe autism, some of that kind. So it's not so easily identifiable.
Correct.
Is it just as easy, just as difficult to adopt one as compared to the other? I mean, or is there any difference?
I'd say there's no difference at all. We had a surprise with 2 of our children have no facial movement, And we didn't know about the first one until after we received her and started caring for her. And it was an initial kind of surprise to us.
a little shock.
We didn't know that existed.
Sure.
But I think because we had had some experience with previous children, we didn't look at that situation and think, well, there's something wrong with this child. We're not sure we can do it. We looked at it, I think, with God's grace of being able to say, let's move forward and see where it goes. And ultimately learning, she is the two, boy and girl, actually, both of them are cognitively functioning normal. It's just that their facial muscles don't respond, so there's no nonverbal communication cues.
So you don't get the smiling or the frowning.
Correct.
and
Exactly.
Yeah,
That kind of
and
that behavior.
Mobius syndrome is what they have, and it's a 2 in a million type of diagnosis, and we have 2.
What I'm interested in, and I'm sure a lot of parents are interested in this from the point of view of how are these kids accepted at school? You know, they go to a school, you homeschool or you go to the public school?
Yes.
Most of them are in public school.
Public school.
Most of them.
So when you go to a public school, then are those kids accepted or are they rejected? Or is this a difficult process of helping the kids become accepted?
Yeah, we deal with it a lot. The school that we're at in a small community, we just happen to be lucky enough that it also has the special needs program for the eastern part of the county. So the campus is integrated in some sense, where there's children with special needs in the normal classrooms. So it makes it a little easier in that sense, but they still deal with a fair amount of questions.
I mean, kids are kids. Kids bully, kids criticize, kids joke. Kids...
And even the normal kid questions. We have a son without an arm, and every single child will say to him, "What happened to it?" And while that would be seen by their parents as, "Oh no, don't talk about it," to the kids, it's just a normal question of why doesn't he have an arm?
It
Yeah.
is true.
He's-
He
and
doesn't have an arm.
And he knows why. And
Yeah.
he can say.
Yep, because that's how God made me.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That's how he says it.
So that takes care of it.
Yep.
Yeah. Do you think it helps the American kid to have an international kid in this classroom? A kid with a special need?
I think
You think our kids benefit, from that?
I think in a lot of classrooms in our country today, they are, at least in this community, are more integrated in terms of different ethnicities and cultures. And so we are blessed to have a lot of Hispanic culture and to have a lot of Native American culture. So there
Just
is a
part of
mix
the mix.
already.
Yeah, it's
Just part of the
They
mix.
kind of blend right in, which is wonderful.
And really with autism and stuff, it's all in the classrooms anyways. It's not, I don't think their ethnicity changes what they're dealing with type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But do they relate to you as a mother?
100%.
As a father? Or is it like adoption? You're not my mother. You're not my father.
We talk a lot
You know,
about
that-
the birth mother, the birth
Yeah,
father
yeah.
issue, and
Yeah.
how that's something we can never replace or fix, but that we are their parents 100%, and they see it that way.
Yes.
We're very open with them about where they came from and what they might have experienced before they came into our care, and we've been blessed to not have a lot of questions that are negative. They ask questions, but it's...
Yeah, we talk. We
Yeah.
talk a lot.
Have you had to
in our
deal with
house.
that issue when they say to you, "You're not my mother"?
No, I haven't.
Luckily,
But I
there's
did
respect.
I did have a brother who did like to pull that one.
Yeah.
So
we've seen it, and I think it's allowed us to be able to approach it in a very open and honest way.
Yeah.
We're not hiding anything from them, and because of that, they know very well how the nature of the relationship is, and there's no difference whatsoever. If we had a biological child, there would not be competition based on the way that our family functions and works.
Yeah, yeah. I was working with a family one time that had 3 adopted children. And they would say those things. "You're not my mother, you're not my father."
Yeah.
So finally the father pulled these kids together around the table, and they all sat there as a family. And he said to each of these kids, "Now tell us that you are not your mother, you are not your father. Say it." And each of the kids had to say that. And then he said to them, "You'll never say it again. You'll never say that again." And they never did. So they got all, like getting off your chest.
It's good to talk about
So
it.
it was talked about, and then you drop it. The worst thing you can do is let it fester and let it
Right.
come back and be repeated and
yeah.
that kind of thing. So then it drives a wedge between.
There is.
But I think it's going to come up at different stages of life.
Absolutely.
No matter
it
what.
does. It does.
And
yeah.
I mean, it's not like it is a once and for
Yeah.
all, okay, you said it, it's done.
Yeah.
Because, once they hit teenagehood,
Yeah.
then it is different. They're dealing with different struggles. They're dealing with different struggles internally whether they were adopted or not,
That's
you know,
right.
of that identity crisis type
That's
of
right.
thing.
So it'll come up
So
over
it'll
and
come
over.
up again. I'm sure when,
Well,
when they have babies.
You just have to
Then you
be
just-
ready
you
to
keep- you
discuss
just
it
keep
again.
going.
You can't say, well, we talked about that once before.
Nope.
There's
You
a
have
lot
to
of
say,
good resources.
we're going to talk about it again now.
Yeah, a lot of good books and counseling for kids that are going through those struggles of, you know, where do I fit in when I have two sets of parents? So, yeah, it's good to know about that and be prepared every time it comes up.
So did you rely on any source yourself to help you, you know, enter into this world and then stay in it and go through this thing six
Yeah.
times? I mean,
Well, with
I mean,
adoption, you
whether,
have...
whether consultants or
Yeah.
counselors or so on that you consult, or books or whatever,
Yeah.
what did you do to help yourself?
Yeah, there's a lot of education requirements through the adoption agencies. So you're required to read a lot of literature,
Yes.
written resources. You're required to attend a lot of classes, and there's also a element of counseling where you talk with
Your social
therapist, a
workers
social
and-
worker about your own experience,
Yeah.
things to look out for that you might have as a preconceived notion
Sure,
that might
sure.
not be true.
Or
So-
trigger points.
yeah, so you work through all that, but a lot
Yeah.
of it is also just having the patience and grace to deal with the issues as they come up.
Yeah. You said something earlier, and I want to come back to that, Sarah, particularly. You said that you grew up in a family with a lot of adoption history, adopted brothers and sisters, and even extended family
Yeah,
members.
aunts and uncles.
What was your experience that kind of prepared you for this?
Yeah, I grew up in a big family. There were 6 of us kids, and a brother and a sister, both adopted internationally.
Uh-huh,
My brother was adopted when he was 5, and I was 4.5. So out of birth order, it was really hard for him.
Sure.
Because he was really, in a lot of ways, the little brother, but he was the older brother,
Yeah.
and that really caused some
Some tension.
struggles for
Mhm.
him.
Sure.
But we were a tight-knit Christian family, both believing parents. We attended church every week, and just we saw family time as bonding time. And
Is that right?
we spent
Uh-huh.
we spent all the time. You know, we would go on family vacations together. Nobody was ever left out. You know, type thing. And
But
play
you were
games.
not adopted,
I was not.
but you had an adopted brother.
Uh-huh.
So was that hard for you?
No.
Or did you accept it was harder
No.
for him to?
It was hard for him. I think he had just dealt with so much loss and trauma in his first 5 years
In his, you know,
that it was hard. And losing
Yeah.
your culture at age 5 is hard. And
Learning a new language
learning a new language,
right.
starting kindergarten 2 months after you come into the States,
and still don't speak English.
and still don't
Yeah.
speak English.
and then all of a
it's
sudden
hard.
it all hit you.
Yeah, so
at
it's
once,
it's
yeah.
hard.
Yeah. Did your parents prepare you for this?
Oh yeah, yeah. We
Mm.
also did foster care growing up.
Oh, so you're.
So we just were.
This is the family
This
you
is
came
this
out
is
of.
this is family.
This is a mixture of.
Family doesn't mean blood.
Uh-huh.
It's just
That
family.
means
It's in
bond.
the heart.
Family
Means
is all
bond.
in the
Those
heart.
that with whom you bond, you
Yep.
become family.
Yep.
But you got to bond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You do.
And you said that your family did that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were definitely struggles.
Uh-huh.
There were, but
So what was the thing that you learned from your parents then that helped you now be a foster and adopted mother?
just keep loving them
Is that right? Uh-huh.
through the thick and the thin, the hurts and the trials. Just keep going.
It's okay to feel struggle,
Yeah.
but
Mhm.
you have to stick with it. And there may be highs and lows,
Yeah.
but in the end, you're still their mother, you're
Yeah.
still their father.
Yeah. And
Yep.
I'm sure you had days that you cried.
Oh, 100%, as every mother does.
Days that you felt like this is a defeated experience, but you keep on.
But again, I don't know that changes whether it's biological or
No, it
adoption.
doesn't. Every mother, every parent goes through that.
Yep.
But some give up.
Yeah.
But your mother said, no, you keep going.
Yeah.
In spite of all those kind of difficulties, you learned that.
Yeah.
And that helped you
Mhm.
when you had difficult times yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think with the adoption process, what's neat also is there's so much work that goes into just getting to the point of receiving the child that you've already fought really hard to get there
Yeah.
and been an advocate before you even have the child. And so once you have that child, advocating for them is kind of second
Yes,
nature.
Yeah.
So
It just falls in place, doesn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. So what was your experience then growing up?
Yeah.
Did you come from an adopted background as well, or is this the opposite?
we did a lot of foster care in my family.
Oh.
I came from a small family, always desired a big family. And
Well, you got one.
I got one. And so we had done foster care, but I think more so I grew up with friends that had been adopted, especially international, and seeing the situation that they came from and hearing their stories and kind of the transformation. Not that it was that the American culture was better than their culture, but just that a family and a support system that was willing to invest in them medically, socially, emotionally, that created these amazing individuals from kids that were sitting in an orphanage and were being ignored and abandoned. So it really spoke to me, and I think when pregnancy didn't work out, it was natural for both of us because we each had that background in us.
So you just drew on the background, and
it seemed like
it was more
option.
Accepting, and you can move forward a little bit better.
Yeah, and again, it seemed like a better place to invest our money than looking at fertility treatments or other things, because friends doing that, we're spending quite a bit of money.
Well, that's a very expensive process, I'll tell you that. Yeah, yes, I know. So, what did the two of you do together to start this process? You must have had some kind of come to Jesus meeting.
Well,
and say, we're not going to get pregnant, so we've got to do something.
Yeah, we did deal with miscarriage, and that was a process of grieving and understanding, a lot of praying, and it took time. It takes time to heal things. Nothing can be immediate, but there was a point when we really started talking seriously about if this is not an option, what could God be opening up for us? When one door closes, another opens. And
so you see this whole process as being part of a design or part of a plan that you feel like God has really kind of set you apart for this kind of
we didn't know it at first, but I think now it feels that way, maybe.
Does it? Yeah, well, you don't know what you're getting into at first. I mean, you walk by faith, I think, a little bit,
100%.
and then all of a sudden you're there.
Yeah.
You see it in front of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Did you come from a family of faith yourself?
Yeah,
Sarah said she did, but did you as well?
Yeah, we actually had a very strong support system of faith in our family, and I think that also helped understanding kind of a spiritual approach to life and seeing when there's a need, God calls us to fill that need. So
sure,
that's where we were at.
So that's kind of part of the motivation, part of the interest that you have.
I think so. We just felt like if we could be God's hands and feet, we wanted to respond to that call.
So if you go back to your parenting, Kevin, in the sense of how your parents raised you, what was it that you would pass on to our audience, to our parents today, that you would say, this is where my parents did pretty good?
Yeah.
Or maybe they didn't do it so well, and then you avoid that kind of behavior.
Yeah. I think, my parents were very supportive in whatever it was that I wanted to pursue in terms of, learning, education, activities, and having the freedom to be able to choose anything was really a big deal for me. I looked at some kids I grew up with who, their only option was maybe the military, and their parents pushed them towards that just to kind of get them off their load, and that worried me. I thought, oh man, the lack of freedom is really difficult. Not that the military is bad, but if that's not your choice and you're pushed into something like that, it's hard. So, I had that opportunity to really explore and pursue things, and I think that led to us getting married at an early age and allowing us to have time to develop our relationship so that we could get to where we're at now. Sure,
yeah. Well, we're going to take a break. This is a good point to take a break. And when we come back, I'm going to ask you a question to kind of think about it a little bit, but kind of what would be your next 5 to 10 years? You took 10 years to adopt 6 children. Okay, you're here, and you've made it. You've created a bond. You've created a family, international, disability of all kinds. Your background, you've struggled through all kinds of things. You've come to some point now where you've created this bond, this family. Yeah. What's the next step for the next 10 years? Where are you going? Are you going to do another whole family, or what are we going to do? So think about that. We'll come back and get you a cup of coffee, and we'll see you in a few minutes.
The Green Gables Care Home is a 24-hour assisted living facility for the elderly located in Clovis, California, offering spacious private and semi-private rooms which are wheelchair approved, catering to the special person in your life who needs attention and wants to live in a loving home environment. The Green Gables Care Home has assisted living in secured homes for elderly with Alzheimer's, memory loss, and for your loved ones needing assistance with their activities of daily living. Call 559-297-9438 and visit greengablescarehome.com.
Sometimes good intentions hurt rather than help.
Come back to them later.
$76 per meal. The Fresno Rescue Mission offers more than food. We offer hope. Please donate today.
Do you need a locksmith? Layman's Lock and Safe Service and Repair is available for you. 559-228-1805.
Gained a lot, learned a lot, and got a lot of love. If it weren't for the knowledge that I had gained from the classes at PCC, I probably wouldn't be the mom I am today. See, there it goes.
I would love you to meet my son Aaron. My situation was very difficult. I didn't know how my life was going to turn out.
We graduated in June 2010 and we got married in July. And through family, the Pregnancy Care Center changed our lives.
The Pregnancy Care Center was a huge, vital part in helping me walk through that pregnancy, in educating me and loving on me during that time.
Choosing a Medicare plan can be difficult and frustrating. Susan Hatch can guide you through the Medicare maze and help find the right plan for you. Susan helps people understand the confusing and drastic changes that occur every year in Medicare. Susan will only recommend plans that will protect your assets and allow you to continue to see your personal doctor. As a 100% independent agent, Susan is not controlled by any particular insurance company to steer a person onto any one particular plan. Susan was awarded the #1 Medicare supplement agent in California. Look for Susan's Medicare question and answers every Monday in the Fresno Bee. Call Susan at 559-307-2287 and visit MedicareToday.net.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Okay, welcome back and glad that you're with us as we pick up the second part now of Dr. Teach Me to Parent. We have Sarah and Kevin Lockwood with us today. Sarah and Kevin have adopted 6 children. And interestingly, they've all come from different countries and they are all special needs children with some form of disability. So we have quite a mix of what we're talking about here now and learning from them as to how you parent in these kind of difficult circumstances of having kids with different needs and different circumstances and different languages and different cultures and so on. And you've had to put that together. And you've done this over 10 years. You've adopted these kids over 10 years. And now let's assume that you've kind of created this family now. 10 years now, you've created a family. And you're now the international family of the mountains or whatever. But what about the next 10 years? What's ahead of you? Is this going to be a 10 years of stability, of just kind of getting these kids through the basic education, or do you have plans to adopt 6 more?
No, we do not have plans to adopt 6 more.
So how would you look next 10 years?
In terms of size of family, that's a question that comes up a lot, and it's a hard question because to some degree you would like to continue. There's a lot of positive emotions and aspects that go along with continued adoptions. But on the other hand, looking at what time requirements there are from your current load is a really important decision. And we're at a spot where we feel like we're really busy with what we got just based on the needs and the different requirements that the kids have. So I think that we have steadied out in that sense and are not looking at growing our family right now.
Stabilizing.
We're
stabilizing.
Yeah, and there's always things that come up. Every time we think maybe we've got stuff figured out and we know what to expect, then some new medical issue arises, some new educational problem comes up, and we have to be able to have the bandwidth to reach
You
that
do.
and affect it. So
Yeah. So you really see the next 10 years as just being good old-fashioned parents.
Hey, it's going to be a lot of work. There's
It'll be a lot of work.
a lot of effort that goes in, a lot of doctor's appointments, a lot of therapies, a lot of meetings for school IEPs, and that consumes a lot of
Yeah.
our time. But
Yeah.
it's kind of looking at the next 10 years of some of ours are going to be growing up and going off to college.
Well,
Others
that was my
are
next
still
question,
coming
because
up.
I often ask parents that, where they see their kids going 10 years from now.
Yeah.
So where will your kids be?
We don't know. We really are not sure.
It's-
we
Is that
assume-
unpredictable?
Yeah.
I think
we
because
assume
yeah.
that most of them will probably pursue some sort of higher education. That may not be in the books for all of them.
For all of them?
We have one who really wants to join the military.
I see.
So we will see where that
Yes.
takes him.
Excellent opportunity. Yeah.
So we just don't know. We don't know where their disabilities will limit some of the things that they want to do and where they will have doors open to them.
Well, that's one big task as a parent, that you have to begin to look at that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Whatever their disability is, how narrow is it and how much opportunity is there in spite of it?
And how do we prepare them for
And
it?
how can
Because
you-
we can't promise them everything. There's the adoption element. We can't promise that they can be the president someday because they were born in other countries.
That's right. No, they won't be that.
But, we have to be realistic, just like talking about birth parents. We have to be realistic about what they're going to experience
Yeah.
and not try to have them with higher expectations than what is possible. So
Yeah. So you're ready for the next 10 years, though. I mean,
I
you.
think as ready as any parents are.
I think ready is, I think you really did say it, that you really have decided that we're not going to now work on more expansion. We're going to work on stability.
Yeah.
We're going to work on kind of maintaining and developing the kids for what they are and who they are and
Yeah.
what they're capable of.
preparing them
So
for
you
life.
got a great 10 years ahead of you.
It'll be fun.
Let me tell you.
It'll be fun.
No, it's a good time.
It is.
I'm sure you guys have had to put aside a lot of your own personal goals and interests and
They've
things.
changed.
They've changed.
They change. Oh, that's an interesting point.
Our goals are new goals that we are able to meet with our family as opposed to past goals that we thought would be more individual.
Well, let me ask you that then. Did you have goals of your own personal things, such as maybe more education or whatever, that you put aside for other goals?
Yeah.
And then someday you're going to go back and pick those up and bring them forward and develop those? Or how do you see your own impact? I mean, these
Yeah.
kids have had changed your life.
Yeah.
Look how you've changed their lives, and
Yeah.
I'm sure they've done tremendously well.
Yeah.
But how they've impacted you?
Yeah, I think one example of that has been that we were always an outdoor couple. We camped, hiked, skied, all these things. And it was a hesitation initially looking at special needs adoption because we thought, that will probably limit us in some of the things we've planned. It's hard to go backpacking when you have kids who can't walk. And that, I think, put our dreams in that area on hold. It kind of rewrote those dreams. And at the same time, God's brought that full circle to where we're now at the point the kids are old enough that we're starting to approach some of these challenges and look for solutions, looking for ways to get adaptive sports training for us and for them so they can still participate.
Yeah.
We can still be an active outdoor family. And this year we actually loaded them all up and took them around the southern U.S. in the trailer for about a month. Yeah,
Yes, you did.
And
And
you
went
know,
hiking in the Grand Canyon
You did,
and
huh?
all sorts of stuff, even with our son with cerebral palsy and our other son with limb differences. When they couldn't walk, we
Strap
would
them
throw
on the
them on
back.
our back and we would go.
So-
And it was,
we're having to stay a little more fit to do that now.
Yes,
but it is
Yeah.
neat to see God bringing that full circle and allowing us to be active.
You
with
guys have learned to be adaptive.
That's the point.
You've
I
had
think.
to adjust and be creative, I assume.
When we
how
have a
to-
plan, God always changes that plan. So it's hard to say this is how it's going to be in my mind because I think God will guarantee He's going to change that to something else, and you just have to be ready to change with that.
You ever get mad at God?
We've had our times of really grieving, going through miscarriage. There are some things our kids are unable to do that are hard to deal with. It is hard dealing with autism. It's hard
Yes.
dealing with raging and with, sometimes physical injury that comes from that.
the way that he can't even process the normal things
Sure.
that everybody else
Sure.
can, and
And-
that
yeah.
that breaks
Sure.
our hearts for
Yeah.
him. And
Yeah, the autistic kids don't like to be touched.
oh, and he's a cuddler.
But
Yes.
when
But-
he's
But he has to come to you. You
But
don't go to him.
actually, I have to bear hug him because he needs that
He needs it.
sensory input.
Yeah.
But it's hard because he doesn't know he needs it.
That's right. That's right.
So-
Yeah, he needs it, but he doesn't know it. That's well said. I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So this whole thing has really changed your life then.
Yeah.
Are you better for it? I mean, do you think? I mean, you compare yourself to other young couples that have, 2, 3 kids. They have their family. They're going on in life. I mean,
I don't think we're better than them. I think we are better people for
you
ourselves.
would have been otherwise.
and our
or-
kids.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. It's really
To each couple is got their own fit, and this was
That's true.
this was a fit.
I
That
think-
God
but
has
it's
for us.
tempting, though, isn't it? Though to compare yourself.
it's hard,
With
when
other couples your age,
Yeah.
and they and their family, their style, what they buy, and what they
Vacationing,
do, and here
sports.
we are.
Yeah, we definitely have had to give up, I think, some of our aspirations in terms of, our own time going out and golfing or going out and doing vacations together. Those things are harder to fit in and being okay with that. And I think it's actually helped us to focus more on the family time aspect of let's do this
Yeah.
together.
And I think it's helped us to focus on what can we do as a couple
Yeah.
that is still building our relationship in the confines of what,
Yeah.
we don't have a lot of people who can watch our kids,
That's right. That's right.
with
Yeah.
6 of them, period,
Yeah.
and then with their disabilities too,
Yeah.
so
But
we
you
have
said
to-
something very important, though. It's important that the two of you bond.
Yeah.
100%.
And keep on bonding and
Yes.
keep on bonding and keep developing your relationship.
Yeah.
Because kids can drain you.
Uh-huh.
Drain one of you, drain both of you.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're not much for each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have to be very guarded in your own relationship.
Yeah.
Do you?
we have to work hard.
How do you do that? What do you do to make sure your relationship is strong?
We do a few things.
Yep.
One is we try to walk as much as we can because when we're out of the house, the kids
Without
are
the
at
kids.
school,
Yeah.
we can talk through stuff.
When
Getting
we-
through
when we power walk, when we hike,
Oh,
when
yes.
we process.
schedules,
Yes.
problems, how we're each feeling about things. That really helps us. And then we also, once a week at least, have a time. We do an in-house date night. We can't go out really that often, but we will set aside time where we'll just close ourselves in our bedroom. We'll talk.
Put the kids to bed early, and we will just have a nice meal together, and just
We won't
just-
talk about the schedules or the kids' problems. We try to separate those
Yeah,
two
yeah.
things so that
It can dominate. It can
is-
overwhelm
yeah.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a chance to
Yeah,
just
you get-
have our relationship develop.
And sometimes you almost have to call it that. This is our time.
Yeah.
And there's a healthy selfishness to this
It
thing.
is.
It looks like you're just being selfish, but that can be a very healthy kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because if you aren't strong, then you don't have much to give.
That's right.
So you've got to keep your own marriage strong. I mean,
Yeah.
your own body strong and your own
Yeah.
health
Yeah.
strong.
Yeah,
'Cause
we
this can
find-
this can pull on one's health. Have you had health problems? Are you okay?
No, we're actually okay. We've been pretty active, and
We've
doing
we've worked
pretty good.
on staying healthy.
Maybe
so we
because
can-
you walk and you power walk. I mean,
Yes.
that's the good thing about this.
and we live in the mountains, so it's walking is hiking.
And it's a good walk.
It is good.
Yeah, that's a good walk. Yeah.
But if we weren't active ourselves, the ability to pick the kids up, to carry them, to transfer them,
Sure.
those things would be a lot harder. And so
It'll be tremendously hard. Yeah.
we have to
So
we have
we
to
need
think
it.
about
Yeah.
them first. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there one kid though that is really a burden to you? Do you have one that is just really tough,
Yeah.
or they all kind of have their own issues of
they all
toughness?
have their own issues of toughness.
I think we've struggled the most in adapting to, again, looking at how their disabilities affect them.
Yeah.
And so it is hard for us seeing our son with autism and knowing that this is going to be a permanent thing
Yeah.
that he has to deal with in life, and it's going to
That's right.
make him be very stressed, very anxious, and to not see the joy in him all the time is hard. Our son with cerebral palsy is a similar situation. He will never, grow out of the cerebral palsy.
No.
It's going to be something
He'll live
that
with
affects
it.
him.
Yeah.
Thinking
And you
about
want him to live beyond
Yeah.
it a little bit. Yeah.
Thinking about marriage for our kids is hard, knowing that sometimes maybe their disabilities may limit the options in finding a mate. We never know, but
You
we
may not.
pray about
May,
it all the
may
time,
not.
and just do the best we can to try to raise them as if they were like any other child, and hope that God has His plan, and we'll see it through.
So it sounds to me like you've thought this thing through pretty well. You've anticipated the future. You don't know what it's going to be, but you got, a handle on what it could likely be. It might be, probably will be.
Maybe.
I think we don't kid ourselves, though, in knowing that there will be a lot of roadblocks,
tough times ahead of you.
a lot of curveballs that come out of the woodwork that we're not expecting. And I think we've learned that through even just roadblocks during the adoption processes, closed doors, open doors, and it's allowed us to be open to those new challenges that come on.
You not only have your 6 kids that you've adopted, but you tell me that you are also volunteering with an organization that meets the needs of these kids with special needs.
Yeah.
Johnny and Friends.
Yeah.
Johnny and Friends have been around for a long time. Most people have heard the story of Johnny being in an accident and diving into a pool and breaking her neck and then being disabled the rest of her life. And now how she has created this organization to serve the needs of disabled children.
Yeah.
And you go to San Francisco periodically to work with kids there.
Yeah, so we're involved.
The very same kind of kids that are in your home.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, we're involved with the Family Retreats, which is one of the main legs of the Johnny and Friends organization. They do a lot of international outreach, but Family Retreats is something where they work hard to give parents and families a chance to relax. It's not as easy for a family with disability to go on vacation, but at the Family Retreats, you have trained volunteers who will care for each of the children, allow mom and dad time to be together, time to go to Bible studies
worship,
together. There's worship time.
They're all there, though.
Everybody's together.
They all
It's a
come.
family camp. Everybody's
But kids are
together.
primarily taken care of.
They're cared for from basically 8 a.m. till 9 p.m. with skilled care, which is really neat. So we'll have kids that have, spectrum issues with autism. We'll have kids that have,
medical
pumps and vents and everything. And we
Yes.
try to match them up with adequate volunteers to care for them. And so Sarah and I manage the Bay Area retreats and help find all the volunteers, train the volunteers, and then oversee what they're doing at the camps.
Yeah, we manage the volunteers part of it, not we manage the retreat.
The volunteers, we manage the
We
volunteers.
don't manage the
But
retreat.
to get that all coordinated, but I mean that's a big part
help
of it.
plan,
Without
yeah.
that, it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah, we've been doing it
Yeah.
for 2 or 3 years, and just really have found that working with these young adults to actually
Sometimes senior citizens.
senior citizens that are coming to volunteer with families. That's really where our passion has been, where we are helping them
To see the benefit.
to see,
Yeah.
how their
Yeah.
week is going to look, and give them support along the way, because we walk it on a daily basis.
Yeah. So this is like a camp for a week.
Yeah, for a
Absolutely.
week.
So you devote a whole week to that.
Yeah,
We do
it-
2
we do it
camps in the
twice
summer.
You do it twice.
Yeah.
Take your kids and you do the same thing.
Yeah, our 2 oldest have actually started volunteering
So
with
they're
it
old enough
too.
now to volunteer to help.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's been an incredible blessing in our life.
So if there's a couple out watching this program that said, "Well, that's something I'd like to do.
Yeah.
I'd like to go and give a week and work with
Yeah.
disabled children and help them," I can do that.
Yeah.
How would they make contact?
Yeah, they just go to johnnyandfriends.org and they can find the information about
So
family
that's on the
retreats.
screen as a website? That's what they do.
And we take from usually about 17 and up. We do have families that come and they serve together. Sometimes
a
mom and
whole
daughter,
family
dad and
comes.
son, and they'll care for a child that whole week. And it's a really neat family vacation for them because
Yeah.
they're serving, but they don't have to get passports and go overseas to be in a mission opportunity.
Sure.
Yeah.
So is there a need for this? I mean, or
Definitely.
We're always recruiting.
Definitely.
We're always looking for new people who will sign up and help. So.
And there's family retreats all over the country and all over the world.
Yeah.
They do.
yeah, tell me about that. This is not something just local.
No,
San Francisco
no.
or Northern California.
No, definitely not. The head office is down in Agora Hills in Southern California. But then there are local offices all over the United States.
Yeah.
And they all do their own family retreats. There's now some Wounded Warrior retreats too for families
Yeah.
of vets.
Sure.
They do church support to try to help churches develop special needs ministries so that the families within that congregation can be supported and encouraged.
So if a pastor out there was watching and he has a couple of special needs kids in his church,
Yeah.
he could get
Contact
some
and-
assistance from Johnny
Yes.
and Friends.
Yeah.
And they will come to your church and they will train you.
Yeah, give
as
you resources
to
and-
how to walk alongside these families that need assistance.
to make church accessible for them.
Because most families with kids with disabilities can't attend church
Yeah.
because they're not welcome there.
Yeah.
Because as the church body, they don't have the resources or the knowledge or the understanding or the whatever, and so many families are turned away.
It's sad, isn't it?
It is extremely
Or
sad.
told they need to care for their own kids during the service, so the parents are never able to actually listen to a sermon or worship. So, yeah.
So then it's easier for them to stay home and watch TV than it is to go to church, watch television.
And not have that pain of rejection or that pain of being turned away.
Yeah. So,
what's your advice to pastors? What to churches? What could you tell them?
yeah. So we really encourage people in the ministry to look at a child or a family affected by disability as every other family. How do you make church and church activities accessible for everyone? Because it's really common for a church to say, well, we don't have much budget, we can't get special equipment, or we can't train people, so we're just not even going to try. When instead it's more of the heart issue of, if there's a will, there's a way. And so being open to saying to a family, hey, we noticed that your family's affected by disability. How could we help you make church more able, more accessible, more successful? And that's where it starts, is just engaging. So.
Are pastors open to this? Are churches interested in getting help?
We have had experience with being rejected. And again, it's not a negative rejection, but it's more of being told, we don't have the budget, or we're afraid our insurance won't cover us if we help you. And that can be difficult. So, yeah.
So there is a barrier there.
People have
fear. I'll call it the barrier is fear.
For good intentions,
and not being comfortable.
Right.
Well, and honestly, when you're dealing with autism, because that's often the one that is seen a lot and turned away a lot.
Yes.
Because
disruptive.
It's disruptive. You have kids on the spectrum that vocalize and make noise, and that's not very churchy. And they may have behaviors that are hard to deal with, and so I think people are out of fear, like, okay, well, I'm just going to push it away. I can't handle that. Instead of walking alongside and saying, what can we do to help? What can we?
Sure.
How can we do this?
Yeah. So, if I were a pastor and I had children in my congregation, or if I wanted to welcome children who are disabled, Johnny and Friends is my resource.
It's a great place to start.
It's a place to start.
Yeah, they have books, they have teaching tools, they have, again, staff that will come help work with it. And one of the things they do that really helps families is they'll train churches on how to do a respite event. And it's something where, you get volunteers, you give them some training, and then you have a night where anyone in the community that has a family affected by disability can bring their kids, drop them off for a few hours, and the parents can get a break, whether to build their own relationship.
That's the deal.
Yeah. Go home, take a nap, do some shopping. It's always great.
Sometimes just doing nothing is
going and sitting,
doing something,
sitting down and not having to think about 24 care.
Who's needing me now?
That's right. So
and so often that first respite event is what opens the doors to families even being willing to come to church. Because they see, okay, it's a fun event. But it shows that a church is even willing to try.
So
if I were a parent and had a disabled child, do I call Johnny and Friends and say, help? What do I do? Is that?
Yeah, Johnny and Friends doesn't provide specifically family care, but they do have a lot of resources to refer families to. Again, there's the family retreats. There's also the knowledge of these respite events at churches that they've helped coordinate, so they can say, well, hey, next weekend at this church, give them a call. They're doing a respite event. They might be able to help you out. They also have, books and materials that they can share. So there's a lot of possibilities.
And they also do marriage retreats. Different offices will do different retreats, and where the parents can go away for the weekend and get the help that they need.
It's always the problem. I would like to go, but I don't know what to do with my kids.
Exactly.
And I don't have anybody to babysit them. Which I assume is a problem.
That's the big problem.
When you live in the mountains, that's more of a problem. When you live in the city, who is going to be interested or capable or qualified to take care of my kids for a day? Well, I go shop.
And it's hard.
You're very much alone, I assume.
It feels that way.
As parents, I assume that you kind of sense that aloneness of, I'm in this thing by myself.
And we're married. It's hard on single parents. It's especially hard. to be
Well,
able
that
to
would
have
be
that break.
a whole nother dimension, wouldn't it?
Absolutely.
Because we parent together.
You parent together, sure, you strengthen.
We take our burden together,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But single parents don't have that.
They don't have that.
And that's neat that Johnny and Friends is, you know, it's for all families. And so when it's a single mom or sometimes a single dad with kids, you know, we see so much benefit there as they're able to get some time away.
Yeah. What about grandparents? I'm a grandparent, so I don't know if you have grandparents that come into your life, your kids, and help. Is that true?
Yes.
Is this a role that grandparents can play?
Yes.
Absolutely.
And it all depends on the disability and the grandparents' ability too. Because like
Lift
when,
and bend
exactly
and-
when our son with cerebral palsy was younger, he was much harder to care for because it was more lifting and everything.
Yeah.
As he's 8 now. As he's gotten older, he's learned how to transfer himself and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so it's actually easier on our parents to help.
To help a little bit.
I think the hard thing for grandparents is that if they're looking at a child with special needs, they may not have that experience themselves, and so they think, well, I'll just parent them the way I parented you. And to be open and willing to listen to the parents' input and no, it needs to be done this way. I think having that flexibility is where grandparents really can play a big role.
Yeah. Okay, we got a couple minutes. The question I have for you is, we have an audience out there of parents who have disabled kids, parents who have kids that are not disabled particularly. Maybe they think they are, but, but not particularly, or not defined in that way. What's your advice to parents? What 1, 2, or 3 things that a parent should do or not do to really be an effective parent, disabled or not? Just good old-fashioned garden variety parenting. What would you advise our parents today who are watching?
Flexibility, patience.
There's 1, 2.
Those are big ones. Treating all your kids as equals. Whether they have
3.
disability or not, you know, their ages, you have to give them the freedom to be who they are. And if that's a child that's affected by disability, often people are trying to protect them and, you know, have this hedge around them. They need to still experience failure. They need to still experience life. For us, that choice was public school for a lot of our kids. You know, we have people that disagree with that, but it has allowed our children to get out there in the real world and to deal with some rejection. And that's really grown them quite a bit because we can help them.
Every kid grows from rejection or
Yeah.
from a problem. That's what the problems do. They sharpen us.
Yeah. So we're not afraid, again, of, you know, somebody saying to one of the kids, what's wrong with you? What happened? We work with our kids through those processes so that they can gain
So they can answer. They can
the
deal
answers.
with that.
Yeah. So that's been a big thing.
What's your advice,
that,
Sarah?
I think that being open and honest with your kids, being willing to talk and talk and talk, but you can't talk unless you have quality time.
Yeah.
Like, you really can't. We sit around the dinner table every night, and the conversations sometimes drive us crazy. But at the same time, our kids know that we talk.
But you sit around the table.
And we sit around
talk.
the table.
That
and we
is
talk.
not a
We make
deal
it a
today.
priority.
It is, but pretty much 7 nights
Parents
a week.
don't do that, and I
we
say
are-
parents need to do that.
We
In fact, there was a
believe-
research study showing that if parents sit at a table as a family once a day, that is the best defense against drug abuse later on in life.
Yeah.
You build that family bond around that table.
Yeah.
And if you don't do that, your kids are vulnerable to a lot of different things, school failure and drug abuse and a lot of other things.
Yeah.
We believe in solid food, solid schedules, and quality time
As
around
a
the table.
family.
I mean, like, we're big on all
Solid
of those.
time.
Solid time.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Say it again.
I don't know if I could. Solid food, solid
schedule.
solid schedule, and
Quality
solid
time.
solid quality time.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. We also have, I mean, we're, you know, more conservative in how we raise our kids. We don't have screens in their rooms. Our kids don't have cell phones at this point. But I think that those limitations have allowed for more togetherness. We do a lot of stuff outside. We do a lot of stuff playing games, watching a family movie together. And it's those situations that I think allow everybody to feel not only bonded to us, but to their siblings as well.
Well, if you let the cell phone come in, then you're going to have your kids off into independent
Oh yes,
living.
we've got 2 teenagers.
And you're
that-
not going to come in together as a family. It's
a hard one.
It's a war against family.
Starting to navigate that.
Yeah, we're starting to navigate that.
Well, thank you for your insight and for sharing your life and sharing your children's life and your hopes and your dreams now with us. And many out there have kids like this, and need that kind of help. So Johnny and Friends would be the place to go.
Definitely.
Here's a little quote at the end, and maybe you want to comment about it. The foundation of every state is the education of its youth. You know, and youth is educated at home, not necessarily just the school. And you are teaching parents.
Yeah.
You are teaching parents.
Yeah. Education is a worldview which is taught by the parents first. Yeah.
That's what you're doing. Every day you're a teacher.
How they interact.
You probably didn't think of yourself that way, but yeah.
Whether you want to or not.
Whether you want to or not, you are the teacher.
Whether you're having
kids.
a good day or not, you're still the teacher.
You're going to teach, and whether you're prepared to it or not.
Yeah. Yes. No, they need to see how to interact with their peers and their worlds, and hopefully we can model that in a way that makes sense.
Well, thanks for joining us today on Dr. Teach Me to Parent, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now.
When I set foot on the campus to come visit it, I was struck by how open and how welcoming the students and the professors were. Coming to Gordon was like coming home.
I think intentional community is what Jesus modeled with his disciples, and Gordon has really fostered a good place for intentional community to happen.
Gordon is a place where you can meet people from all over the world and hear their stories. I meet a lot of different people who are shaping who I am today.
Gordon seeks to graduate men and women of character and of leadership, and the world is the place where Gordon students belong.
Choosing to go to Gordon was, I think, one of the best decisions I've made in my life. Expect to be changed.